Hello, good afternoon. How's the mic this week, guys? Uh, Let me know if there's an echo. We switch mics, so I'm back to my conventional mic this week. Right on, right on. Okay, good to know. All right. Decent. Okay. Is that like cool guy decent? Or means that it's actually good, or like decent, just like at halfway sucks? Okay, well, we'll give it a few minutes. We'll give it a minute or so, 2 minutes here before we kick off. I got like 3 weeks worth of Reddit questions to get through. So after we do this, Kevin explains crypto. Uh, this week we'll run into Reddit questions first, I think. Uh, and yeah, so then we'll see how that goes. Should be able to get through most of them, if not all of them, though, before we jump into the AMA. So. All right, so minor echo. Okay, I think it's just the room, guys. Bit of an echo in here, just because I'm in a glass box, and that creates an echo. So physics. Video tour of the office. I don't know if we have a video tour of the whole office. We definitely have some video from the office. That's for sure. No, my office is actually right here. It's just I think people got tired of looking at it, so I figured we might as well show people that it's not just this like concrete room, and it's just not me. We actually have an office, so it's the only reason I'm sitting out here. Oliver's desk is actually right over here, but he's not sitting there right now. I think he went upstairs. He ran away when I turned the camera on, so you might get a glimpse of him if you're lucky. Yeah, extra shiny forehead. Yeah, I've been working on it. I've been trying to get it nice and ready for this week's show. So I don't know if it's perfect yet, but it's getting there, right? It's getting there, getting there. Plus, got this pesky hair out of the way too, so that you can see more of the forehead, which I think is probably important. All right, guys. I guess we'll get started here. So give me a second. I'm gonna go dual device here and actually use my phone to read the news and the questions. Look at me. Okay, so for anybody who has never been here with us on this show before, my name is Kevin Murcko. I'm CEO here at CoinMetro. And every week we do this week in crypto. I go over 10 news stories that were curated by our elite Telegram club or team, I guess. Thanks, guys, for that, by the way, as always. Then we jump into Kevin Explains Crypto. We vote, the team votes not the team, but the actual, I guess, Telegram votes on what the term will be this week that I will define in the best way that I can. And then we move into Reddit questions and AMA. Now, I haven't answered Reddit questions in 3 weeks. So we have actually not so many. There's probably like 10, 12 questions in there. So we'll get to those right after Kevin Explains Crypto, and then we'll jump into the AMA here on YouTube, so you can post your questions somewhere over here, and I'll get to answering them. just to let everybody know, this week we're actually doing this broadcast in conjunction with blockslive.tv. So they'll be featuring the This Week in Crypto every week now. I think they'll post it on Mondays, every Monday, on their site. So look forward to seeing that. It will be generally unedited, though they'll help us, shave off the first few seconds or so, or whatever, when we're doing mic checks and things like that. But definitely thanks to the guys at Blocks Live TV for doing that, and we look forward to a nice little partnership. So let's get rolling, guys. We're going to start off with market news as we always do. 10 pieces of market news, I believe. Yep, just like every week. So let's start with number one on that list, and we'll get moving. So Algo Capital loses crypto funds after CTO's phone is hacked. That's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? You're supposed to be, you have a blockchain that's supposed to be one of the most, let's say, advanced blockchains that's out there, 4-second block time, et cetera, et cetera. Your CTO is a pretty lauded member of tech society. One of the guys won the Turin Award. There's Silvio that sits on the team as well, and then the CTO basically gets hacked. And was holding, several million euros worth of funds on his cell phone, wallet on his cell phone. So I think it just goes to show again, guys, which I say every time I read one of these stories about somebody getting hacked, it's all about protocols. And I don't mean the blockchain protocol. I mean, it's about internal protocols in a business and how those protocols are actually adhered to, right? So don't go on the Marriott's open Wi-Fi on your wallet built into your cell phone and start accessing crypto wallets that hold millions of euros in them. Not a great idea. It's not about the blockchain. It's not about the fact that the blockchain is somehow, I don't know, easier to hack than, let's say, a bank account is, or somehow it's vulnerable. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with everybody feels that, not your keys, not your crypto. They take it upon themselves to store valuables inside of their phones or whatever, maybe a web wallet. And they fail to follow simple protocols that stop others from gaining access to private keys and gaining access to information that can let them steal those assets. So people just need to kind of smarten up and, create a plan and stick to it. Number 2 on a list of 10, you can't fix 51% attacks on Bitcoin without adding centralization, argues core developer. Well, look, I would say that that's under the current structure of Bitcoin, probably correct. Because the only way to mitigate the fact that someone could take over 50% of the network is to have some centralization point, some way to govern the fact of who owns what on the network, which would add in some form of centralization. So, as I said, I agree, though I think that for Bitcoin to be successful, I mean, we've already seen some forks in Bitcoin. We've already seen updates to the Bitcoin blockchain in its future. And I think at some point, obviously, these things need to be solved. They can either be solved via some type of decentralized means that doesn't involve any type of centralization or centralized governance. But at least right now, I think the only way to solve that would probably involve centralized governance, because you'd be basically governing who owns what, meaning who owns how much of the network. So completely agree there. The question is that the solution, or will another solution emerge as the tech evolves? And I don't mean Bitcoin blockchain tech in particular. I simply mean the tech around DLTs and blockchains. Will there be a way perhaps to store Bitcoin on some type of co-chain or some type of side chain that allows for fixing of not just the 51% attack issue, but other issues, whether it be scalability or whatever, but still be tied to the original chain? That's a question that I think that obviously will be answered over time. We'll have to see how those core developers tackle that, or perhaps some external developers that end up creating a solution where Bitcoin can still maintain its value off the main chain, sorry. Number 3 on the list of 10, Hong Kong's SFC releases regulations for crypto fund managers. I always find these type of news stories a bit odd, because fund managers are fund managers. Doesn't matter what kind of funds they're managing. Doesn't matter if those funds are in cash. Doesn't matter if they're in tokenized cash. Doesn't matter if they're in tokenized assets, regular assets, assets written on the back of a napkin, it's still there's still a fund manager. AIFM, alternative investment, blah, blah, blah. All these things still apply. All these jurisdictions that come out and say, and they specify crypto fund manager, crypto, tokenized security trading, or whatever. It's security trading. It's fund management. You don't need new laws. All they need to do is simply include a slight change in the law, or a clause that states that under portfolio management, another asset that can be managed under that same regulation is any form of portfolio that involves digital assets, tokenized assets, cryptocurrencies, or the like, something built on DLT technology that has an underlying value. Done. Number 4 on a list of 10, class action suit against Tether and Bitfinex market manipulation. Yeah, 1.3 trillion, I think, is the class action suit. Obviously, if they were to win and be awarded 1.3 trillion, which I doubt would happen, I don't doubt that they may win. I doubt the fact that obviously a judge or even a jury would throw down a verdict, the biggest verdict, I think, in the history of the world in terms of punitive damages of 1.3 trillion. But I do think that there's probably, they have a case, and Bitfinex and Tether are going to have a hard time winning any of these cases, whether it's a case put up from the government side, or whether it's a case put up against from individuals. They're going to have a hard time. They don't really have much to stand on in terms of saying that they've done the right thing the right way. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But it would be amazing to set some precedent, like the biggest damages ever set in a legal dispute against Tether, who probably doesn't even have a fraction of what they're supposed to have in terms of reserves. So anyway, what this will lead to, win or lose, will lead to them having to disclose how they run their business. And that's probably going to lead to more lawsuits and more charges laid against them. So probably bad news ahead for both of those companies. Number 5 on a list of 10, Vanguard developing blockchain platform for $6 trillion Forex market. This always makes me laugh. This makes me laugh a little bit because obviously I come from Forex. Anybody who's never seen the show before, or chatted with me on Telegram or via email, or via any means really, I come from the FX market, right? So I have an FX company, been around about a decade, and before that, I managed funds. I traded for myself for the better part of 20 years, actually a little over 20 years now. And FX, the majority of FX trade now, FX is not a $6 trillion market. Don't let these guys kind of fool you. Vanguard is an institutional player in FX, though a lot of the liquidity they provide goes to platforms that provide liquidity to retail traders. So you could say they're pretty intrinsically connected to the retail market. Retail FX per day is 200 to 400 billion only. 6 trillion takes into account every single transaction that happens around the globe, meaning you use your euro-based debit card in Sri Lanka. When that batch transaction goes to the bank at the end of the night to make the conversion from euro to local currency, that's considered part of that $6 trillion a day. So going back to the initial news story here, most Forex trading is done via high frequency trading. Most Forex traders cannot sustain their profitability with latency over maybe 30 milliseconds. There is no blockchain right now that comes even close to being able to provide the velocity of payments, the velocity of the transaction speed that would be required to actually trade on a blockchain. Now, I didn't read the story. I have to admit, didn't read the whole story. I don't know if they're creating the platform simply for settlement, maybe of those trades. Maybe batch settlement. Maybe it's for providing liquidity. Maybe it's providing quotes or execution reports back and forth between venues. Then it gets a little bit less hazy. But at the face of it, trust me, if there was a system right now that I could integrate into my FX brokerage that could actually allow, or my crypto exchange for that matter, that could allow us to trade on blockchain and eliminate all of the other nascent technologies that exist in our tech chain, then we would do it. It doesn't exist. Now, it says they're developing it. That's great. But consider the fact that some of the most tech-savvy minds in cryptography are also trying to create blockchains that can handle high-frequency loads, high throughputs. And no one has been able to surpass maybe 50,000 transactions a second. And in terms of FX, that's not going to get you enough transaction volume to cover probably the transaction volume that happens on one widely used retail platform. US SEC rejects Bitwise Bitcoin ETF proposal. So I read into a bit of this, not on the specific story, but I read into a bit of this when I saw it. I was already expecting the denial. I think we talked about this here on the show a few times. Why? Well, in the initial ETF proposals, the SEC, so Securities and Exchange Commission in the US, basically said that there was no way to ensure that there was some type of investor protection against volatility. No one solved that yet. But aside from that, I've read some reports and some rumors and talked to a few people with a little more insider knowledge than I have that say that most of these applications are simply immature, meaning that they don't even meet the requirements in terms of just an arbitrary requirement to apply to the SEC, meaning they don't cross all the boxes. They don't check all their boxes, not crossing all the T's, not dotting all the I's. They are simply immature. They don't provide the correct information. They provide less information than required. They don't go into detail where asked, etc. So I think, to be honest, I think getting an ETF, I think to get an ETF approved, you need a, let's say, accurate price discovery mechanism. Since they're the only place that has any type of regulated activity in the US is the CBOE. And the CBOE has been running futures for, I don't know, a little over a year now, maybe. Now you have Bakkt, which is the CEO of Bakkt, I believe, is the wife of the guy who runs New York Stock Exchange, right? So these guys obviously, let's say, are close to probably the people that make decisions, and they probably trust systems that are made by their tech teams. They probably trust that they have enough knowledge to create something that's sound. Doesn't mean they don't trust the CBOE, but there needs to be enough historical data from a trusted source to create enough price discovery so an ETF has somewhere to price from. ETFs can't take their prices from Binance, right? They have to take their prices from a regulated source. So that's for the first hurdle. And we don't have enough price data, and we don't have enough volume on that price data to actually have an accurate price discovery mechanism compared to the rest of the underlying market. Two, there needs to be a way to address volatility and how do you protect investors? I don't think anybody's done that yet. Once those two things get solved, an ETF gets approved. But I can guarantee you that the ETF getting approved will do absolutely nothing to the market. Just like everybody waited for Bakkt, said that Bakkt was going to cause some great bull run. Did it? No. In fact, their volumes on most days are less than the volumes at CoinMetro. And that's simply because, when it comes to trading futures, people already had accounts at the CBOE, and they offered, Bitcoin. They said, we can throw a few percentage of our portfolio in here into a volatile asset. Perhaps we make some money. If we lose, no big deal. And they didn't have to go on. They didn't have to onboard anywhere else. Now, those are cash delivered futures, so they're not connected directly to the underlying market. Bakkt is connected directly, which crypto people love. But most people that trade on CBOE aren't crypto people, and they don't even want to spend the time to get onboarded, which, by the way, institutional onboarding in the US can take months, not days or hours like CoinMetro, for example, but months. So they don't even want to expend the energy it would take to get onboarded by another platform. That's how much they could give a shit about underlying physical backed futures. So there you go. That tells you a little bit of how much real institutional interest there is in terms of the real crypto-esque part of this market, meaning, because obviously if you're a crypto guy, getting backed by Bitcoin, a future backed by Bitcoin is a big deal compared to a cash-backed future. Number 7 on list 10, Ethereum derivatives could be the next big thing as CTFC clears Ethereum as a commodity. No, they won't. I don't even know what else to comment on that one. Ethereum doesn't have the market cap, probably never will, and has no real, right now, aside from being the platform for smart contracts and the platform for tokens, which may or may not be what it is in the future, there is absolutely no way for an institutional player to value Ethereum. Bitcoin is a little easier because it has more usage, and the mining costs combined with the usage, combined with the network effect, give a valuation. Ethereum isn't at that stage yet. I don't think Ethereum derivatives would be the next big thing. And the CTFC has not said it's a commodity. Someone that works at the CTFC said, in his opinion, it's a commodity. In my opinion, it's a security. And the reason is that it offers a platform to build securities on, which makes it a security. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the CTFC comes out and maybe says it's a commodity at some point, maybe. But you know what happens after they say it's a commodity, now that they've all said Bitcoin is a commodity, is that you will be required in the US to have a CFTC license, a futures trading license to trade Bitcoin and Ethereum, which requires 25 million net capital minimum upfront. So expect that to come sometime in the future. IRS releases guidance number 8 on crypto airdrops and hard forks. I read a bit of this, didn't read too hard into it. It's guidance, guys. Guidance should always be taken with a grain of salt. It's not legislation. It's not something that's enforceable. It's them telling you, we think. Now, the IRS does not create laws. The IRS enforces them. They're like the regulator. Regulators don't create laws. They enforce them. Legislators create laws. On that note, understand that guidance from the IRS is almost meaningless. They're telling you what they think, according to current law, how this would be perceived by a judge in a judiciary if something were to happen. That doesn't mean they're correct. So it's good that they're trying to help. It's nice that they're releasing guidance. But until we actually get some legislation or legislative change or judiciary precedent, pretty close to meaningless. Binance reveals number 9, Alipay as a fiat on-ramp. Alipay denies and will block all Bitcoin transactions. Yeah, so this just goes to show you that Binance doesn't have anybody on their team that understands, whatever, regulation, legalities, other, because obviously Bitcoin in China, well, is not in the best situation. Most residents in China aren't allowed to buy Bitcoin. So obviously a company based in Bitcoin that does a lot of business with the government doesn't want anyone publicly buying Bitcoin using their service because, well, they can get in trouble. So I think maybe Binance, maybe will get their first little slap on the wrist from the Chinese government following this. We'll have to see how this pans out. Number 10 on the list of 10, major refinery Perth Mint unveils government gold-backed token. So not the first. UK government already did this. The Royal Mint in the UK already has a gold-backed token. It has its own chain, and it's been available now for over 2 years, I think. And you can actually get your gold-backed tokens into a cold wallet through BitGo. They've been offering that for quite some time as well. So not the first guys to do this. Remember back in the day, I said that I thought the first country that was going to tokenize their actual fiat currency was going to be a Commonwealth country. Well, the reason for that is that the Commonwealth countries generally tend to be, in terms of, let's say, first world economies, tend to be first movers in a lot of things. UK was the first, the Royal Mint was the first to tokenize gold. And now, look, you have Australia doing the same thing. So hats off to Australia for moving in the right direction in terms of native tokenization. Here, obviously, it's gold-backed, so it's not truly native, but it's going in the right direction. But they're not the first to do it, so not really a new story. And the Royal Mint, I believe, doesn't really get all that much volume. And the main reason is, again, institutional investors that invest in gold could care less about tokenization. And in this, the idea of tokenizing an underlying asset, while it would make maybe an illiquid asset more liquid, gold is not illiquid. So one of the major reasons for tokenizing an underlying asset or a rights token to the underlying asset doesn't make any sense in this case. Okay, guys, I'm going to jump into Kevin Explains Crypto here real quick. Let's see what we got for this week. So Kevin Explains Crypto this week. Our term this week is peer coin. So it's actually not a term, as far as I know. It's actually a coin. I think it came out in roughly 2013, 2012, something like that. And it combines proof of stake with proof of work. Basically, the proof of stake comes in that the more tokens you hold, the more you can dictate the next block, and then proof of mining is used, proof of work is used to actually mine those blocks. And the idea is that there can be no monopoly, so you don't end up having a monopoly of block creators versus people that are actually mining those blocks. The cool thing is, I guess, about this is proof of stake. It was one of the first, if not the first, proof of stake concept tokens or coins. If I'm mistaken, it's 2012 or 2013. So not bad, but that's it. Maybe there might be another. Maybe there is another use for the word peer coin. Maybe it's not just a brand. If it is, maybe if somebody else knows, shoot it in the chat and we can chat about it. Gonna jump on to Reddit questions, guys, because we haven't really nailed those down in about 3 weeks. So this will be the third week. So I'm going to jump into those, and then as soon as I get through these, we can jump into some other questions. Millhouse Van Houten on Reddit. This is probably, I don't know when this is from. Could be up to 2 weeks ago, guys. So let's see. Blockchain Week in Korea with well-known blockchain and cryptocurrency names, but you attended talk at the annual IBA instead. Interesting decision. Well, it's not that, unfortunately, I can't just walk into any event and go, Kevin Murcko's here, guys. Where do I speak? So I didn't know about Blockchain Week in Korea until actually somebody mentioned it to me, and it was mentioned to me after I had already agreed to speak at the IBA. And why the IBA? Well, look, we're the IBA, the International Bar Association, is a huge group. I think there's 30,000 lawyers, maybe even more, involved in the IBA, and there's about 7,000 in Korea. But it led to a very unique discussion about fintech, how fintech can help, let's say, revamp the way capital markets work. And it led to a very good discussion. It led to discussions based on regulation in specific countries. It led to discussions on how even though maybe the tech could actually break down barriers, would regulation and would legalities allow those barriers to be broken down? So at the end of the day, it was a great discussion. And it still pushes us toward our goal, right? It doesn't matter, when you speak to a bunch of people at a crypto conference, these are crypto people. They already know about crypto, right? They already know about tokenization for the most part. When you speak to a bunch of lawyers, they didn't even know what stable coins were for the most part. 2 guys in the room raised their hand when I asked them if they knew what a stable coin was. So look, we need lawyers who understand what we're doing all around the world, because we're going to need them to defend us and to help us open doors and to help us get licensing. And when I say us, I mean crypto collectively. So it's just simply that I wasn't invited to speak at the Korean Blockchain Week, and I didn't even know it existed until I had already confirmed. But since I was in Korea, I figured I'd go, and it turned out to be not bad. I saw a lot of people I already know, met a few good new people that I've never met, and I've met some people that I've actually conversed with on Telegram and things like that, and met them in real life. So at the end of the day, it was a decent event, but it wasn't that I chose not to speak there. That's not how it works. Do you like wine? Yeah, I enjoy the occasional glass of wine. That's an odd question between these 2 other questions, but yeah, occasionally. Regarding the IEO, there could be more media attention right now. What do you think? Oh, of course, there could always be more media attention, right? Always. Look, when it comes to, if you look at it from a perspective of us being a platform, right? Our goal for this first IEO is to prove that our system worked, that the integration worked, that the user experience worked, and people were able to move through the process pretty seamlessly, that the conversion from people coming over from links tied to the IEO issuer parsec, that the conversion rate from our side wasn't being hindered by anything on our side, and to that extent, it's been a success. When it comes to marketing, we helped with marketing. We helped where we could. Obviously, we don't even have our own marketing budget right now. That will change hopefully very, very soon. But we helped, right? We helped in terms of getting the word out there. We did some interviews. We helped some PR. But it's really up to the project to do their marketing, right? That's how it works. Obviously, the bigger the platform, the more clients may already be on the platform, which obviously helps at the end of the day the guys raising money. But trust me, if you take out the one-sided market making and all the other ridiculousness that goes into the vast majority of IEOs that have happened on other platforms, you would be very surprised at the amount of volume and the ROI immediately after most of these IEOs. And unfortunately, regulation hasn't caught up to these guys yet, but it will soon, trademark. So yes, of course, there could be more media attention, but a lot of that onus is on the project. And we help where we can, but we can't be the media driver as well for every single IEO that comes to CoinMetro. There will be a new website. What is sales conversion? Sales conversion means someone comes into the website, actually goes through the process to sign up, and then actually spends some money, actually makes a deposit. It's about going from just brand awareness, saying, hey, we're CoinMetro, check us out, to, now that you're here, we do this, this, and this better than these guys, and we do this, this, and this, and our customer service is better than this, this, or that. And that converts them into a client and into an active client. That's sales conversion. What about TRAM? The delay is good because it will bring some new customer protection or whatever Oliver said. What does it mean? What changed? You are in Korea for Blockchain Week. Be careful not to get involved in another MTF sandbox project. Speaking of it, when funding. Okay, so back on customer. So when it comes to TRAM, we had to revamp a bit how we were going to use collateral and how we were going to apply XCM utility. Initially, we had one specific way to have XCM utility inside the TRAM. We now have two, and we've also reduced the risk of having saturation of XCM inside the collateral portion of the TRAM. And the reason for that is there's a risk that if the collateral is 100% XCM, and let's say the TRAM manager has bought Bitcoin, and Bitcoin rises or falls in value sharply, and then people simply want to exit with their profitability, and maybe XCM is either going in the reverse direction or it becomes illiquid, and that causes a move in price as people liquidate. It can basically eat up gains that were made on the other side of the trade, which is through Bitcoin. So we needed a way to mitigate that, but at the same time adding more utility for XCM, and we accomplished both those. Yeah, I actually got into a conversation about an aggregation in Korea, but that's a whole other topic. Liquidity aggregation and funding. So two groups. I've been talking to three groups, including the Brazilians now. Brazilians still back and forth, at least the main group of the Brazilians. But these other two groups are moving quite fast, and I expect to have some really good news for everybody in a very, very small window of time. Didn't say soon. Tokenized securities will go through CM Direct. Is LHV involved? Tokenized securities will go through, in the sandbox, will go through CoinMetro in Montenegro, which obviously will be affiliated with CoinMetro here. In Estonia, LHV will not be involved because LHV were not licensed in the EU. It'll be a bank in Montenegro that will be handling deposits and withdrawals for people that want to deal specifically in tokenized securities. That once we do obtain licensing here in Estonia, MTF licensing, then yes, LHV would be involved. But then at that point, we don't need their permission to list any products as long as they fall underneath the purview of our license. Peter Mack, CoinMetro is a great support team, possibly the best support in crypto. Have you got new support staff trained up, ready for scaling up? We have, our support staff has maintained the same levels, I think, over the past few months. We have Carlo and I think everybody else on the team, but definitely Carlo has played a role in making sure that we have, let's say, a program for how to as quickly as possible train new people as they roll in. And I think everybody on the team is mature enough now to be able to help out newcomers as they come in and still maintain the same level of support. So in partially, yes, we don't have plans right now, and we don't have our finger on the button to hire new individuals. I do think that we can maintain the current level of support probably through several multipliers of our current client base. And once we start to see the pickup in clients, once we start to actively market, then we will start to actively recruit as well. Will TRAM managers be able to invest in IEOs? At the offset, no, but eventually I do think that we will allow derivatives products inside on the platform, and we may make derivatives of IEOs. And that could be ETCFs. ETCFs could also have IEO tokens included, which would be derivatives of that same IEO, which, yes, TRAMs would be able to invest in. Eventually, the goal is to have TRAM managers access to anything that's tradable on the platform. Pizza Mind, will non-US accredited investors be blocked from certain upcoming features like TRAM or other future security market products? So when it comes to trading, there's no need to go into the accreditation in the US. There are a few states where we can't accept clients for trading. I think there's 4 states, New York included, because of the BIT license and some other local regulations. But when it comes to trading, no, they wouldn't be excluded. When it comes to things like primary issuances, that's different. Primary issuance fall under the guise of the SEC, and the SEC dictates the rules, which means you need to be accredited. However, we're working on coming up with at least for the sandbox especially, for a unique type of offering that's going to fall under a specific exemption in the US. The goal is that we're going to eventually open up a dialogue with the SEC to help them understand how smaller prospectus regulation can actually help them do their job and help filter out the market. Because right now they're not really focusing on it. But it is a focus in Europe, and it's been successful already in traditional markets. So that's a goal of ours as well. But as far as tradability goes, it won't be affected by accreditation status in the U.S. Hippo Octopus. Hi, Kevin. I know this is going back a while, but I remember in the old roadmap there was something about a merger of CoinMetro and FX Pig Volumes products still on the horizon. It is. The eventual goal is to have tradability of all of FX Pig products on CoinMetro. It's not something, I think to get there, we need a desktop app. We have to decide whether we want to white label a desktop app or we want to create our own. Creating our own is quite a project. It's definitely going to be something we do after MTF licensing. White labeling is less of a project. It's still on the horizon though, yes. Have you decided on who will be the next IEO and when it will go live? In conversations right now with one out of the Netherlands, quite a unique project. It's an NGO. More to come on that. We haven't inked a deal yet, but I think over the next couple of weeks we may get there. Unique project backed by a lot of famous names, and it's they're trying to do good. They're an NGO, but yeah, we'll release more information on that as we get closer. Number 7, I think this is the last one in Reddit, guys. Can you tell us any more about the algorithms that will be available on Tram? Are they running on any other platforms at the moment? What kind of trading success have they had in live environments? So we haven't created any in-house algorithms. We may at some point under licensing, AIFM licensing, so alternative fund management licensing, we may decide to create our own algorithms. Our CTO Salvatore created what's called the DOOR system. We use it on FX Pig. It is I think it is the best or the highest earning retail FX algorithm over the last 9 years in FX, period. And so I think at some point we will look to do that. When we're talking about who will onboard first, we're in talks with a few companies. One of those companies, I'll give a little shout out right now, is called Krypton. They're based in the UK. They have algo traders from FX, from derivatives, from futures, from bond markets, et cetera, that have come together to create a crypto fund. They have several different algorithms. They've been trading now for, I think, close to a year, average of, I think, 10 to 12% a month in terms of profitability. We're aiming to get those guys on as one of the first offerings. And there's 2 or 3 other, let's say, little fund management algo houses that we're talking to. But I think Krypton might be one of the first. So shout out to the guys at Krypton, Neil, and everybody else. And let's get this thing signed, guys. Deal done. All right, so that concludes the Reddit questions as far as I can see. And so let's jump into the AMA, guys. How good are we? We still got 20 minutes, not bad. I think I went a little over on the news, but I'm going to scroll back up here, guys, to check on some questions. Let's see. What is the actual user growth in the past 3 months? How many users in total are using CoinMetro? So these type of numbers, guys, I don't necessarily have access to right when I'm sitting here. What I can tell you is that, well, you can see the volumes on a daily basis, right? Those are definitely public information. In terms of user growth, I know that over the course of the IEO, we've seen maybe 30 to 40 new clients a day, roughly. Prior to that, I think our average is about 20 new clients a day on average over the last probably 2 months. We've had spikes here and there, but that's generally, I would say, maybe it's not the average, it might be the mean, but it's within that ballpark. In terms of active clients, I think our active client base, and active meaning someone's traded in the last 90 days, basically. I think we hover somewhere around 400 to 600 a day in terms of active traders when you break down that number. Obviously, we haven't focused on user growth yet. We haven't focused on marketing. What we've seen, though, is that the multipliers we see from these clients, the amount of money we make from every individual client on average, is actually higher than what we envisioned initially. So it bodes well for when we start to actually acquire clients through more paid marketing. As long as we can get our paid marketing and our acquisition costs under a certain level, then we already know and we can project exactly when we're going to get into sustainability and profitability. So still good news there. And I think in terms of organic growth, we're actually on a decent path. We haven't faltered. We haven't seen, large dips in user acquisition. We have seen some spikes around product launches and things like that. But generally speaking, we've been on a slow upward trend. The new room is definitely a lot prettier to look at than your dusty little room, man. It's not dusty, man. It might look dusty. I don't know, a little industrial, but yeah, I figured everybody might like a change of scenery. Is CoinMetro wallet on an offline device? Our cold wallets, we do have some air-gapped devices for sure in our cold wallet setup. We also have what I would call online cold wallets. They basically have a software layer. We use BitGo, so there's a software layer in the middle that dictates whitelists and blacklists. So we can have wallets that can only receive funds and only send to one wallet, can't send anywhere else. To change those policies requires multiple hardware devices to be connected for multi-signatures. We also have our own Ethereum wallet set up, which has multiple signatures and basically creates time locks. Our entire infrastructure is quite well done. We spent a lot of time on it. And BitGo is where we kind of push most of our assets right now. Some Ethereum assets, and especially QNT, I believe, go through our own wallet system, and eventually we will port things over to our own wallet system. Once the CSD is available, we'll probably start to use some of the CSD services as well there. Hi, I'm the new guy. Hey, John, nice to see you here. Nice to see the new guy here. Awesome. What's new on funding? I just explained that, I think, Bjorn, but if you didn't hear it, let me know and I'll repeat. I have one question. This is from the new guy, John Legg. I have one question. How and why did you went to the IBA conference? What's the story behind it? Our exchange and crypto guys went to the blockchain week. Did you talk in front of the IBA audience? Other exchange and crypto guys. So I went there because I was invited. Simple as that. I was invited to speak as an expert in terms of, I guess, related tech and capital markets, and discuss how technology can help in breaking down pain points that exist in traditional markets, and then basically have a conversation back and forth with lawyers on the panel about where the legal kind of loopholes and boundaries were and how those could also be maybe circumvented using technology. So I was invited. That's why I spoke there. And I did go to Korean Blockchain Week. I sat and watched Vitalik and Michael Novogratz and a few other guys speak. And I did some networking and things like that. So I was there, didn't speak there, but I definitely was there, saw a lot of people I already know, and met a few interesting people as well. Any further clarity on USA residents being part of Airdrop family or being able to purchase Parsec during the sale? I tried, but it was told it's not possible. Yeah, for now, we had to, for primary issuances, it's not trading. And unfortunately, a primary issuance would fall under the guise of the SEC. So in Montenegro, we may be able to circumvent that. However, right now, in terms of primary issuances for US guys, it's difficult. For the airdrop family, it depends, I think, on how the airdrop is processed and when it is processed. If it's done during primary issuance, there might be an issue. If it's done once tradability happens, I think that issue subsides because it could be tied into some type of promotion. To be honest, it's not something that we've discussed recently with our head of legal and outside legal as well. But I'll make a note of it after I get off here, and I'll chat about it. So please tag me on Telegram to remind me, and I'll get back to you about that. How is the CSD and Montenegro sandbox processing? Well, we finished up the CoinMetro, Jesus, I've been living in Eastern Europe too long. We finished up the CoinMetro's application into the sandbox, and we're planning to submit on Monday. As far as the CSD develop, we just had a call with developers. They're finishing up a sprint right now. On Monday, we'll have some more information to talk about. We're now about 1.25 weeks into development, in 1.25 months, in the development of the CSD. We will start applying in the next 2 months, so that we have hopefully approved application. We're ready to go into the sandbox with the CSD as well in the next 3 months. So progressing as expected. So it's moving along briskly and right on time so far. Jet fuel. You mentioned that once in the sandbox, CM can list securities, but I thought you needed to wait for the CSD. We need to wait for the CSD to show a complete complete capital market infrastructure. But because it's a sandbox, when asked in our application for CoinMetro what we will be doing, we talk about everything we're going to be doing in terms of tradability, and we also mention that up until there's an option to do settlement through a CSD in the same sandbox, we will perform basic settlement at CoinMetro. So because it's a sandbox, we are allowed to do this because we're allowed to operate without the specific license needed So we will show how the tradability works, very, very, very high level settlement like happens on most exchanges right now. And then once a CSD is there, we will port over basically settlement to the CSD. Simple as that. Brian, Kevin, you often criticize people involved in crypto during Kevin Explains Crypto events, decisions, services. But do you admire someone, or is there someone you think of him as a mentor? Yeah, look, I admire a lot of people actually for many different reasons. I would say that Gavin Wood is probably one off the top of my head. Everybody really talks about Vitalik as the guy who started Ethereum or the real core developer, but the real core developer, the guy that really pushed most of the, I would say, the more complex attributes of Ethereum is Gavin Wood. So talk about one person, I would say Gavin Wood. There's Michael Novogratz, I say, is a good guy. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. He generally knows what he's talking about when he speaks about regulation, when he speaks about things that are happening in crypto and how he goes about his own business, pushing the envelope a bit, but generally remaining compliant. Mentor, I can't say I have a mentor, and that doesn't mean that I couldn't have one. I just generally, when I get involved in things, I tend to immerse myself in things. It doesn't mean I wouldn't accept help. Just usually, I just silo myself and focus on what I want to learn and what I want to do, and then eventually, kind of branch out and read and investigate, etc. So yeah, look, a lot of times I criticize everybody. I'm an equal opportunity criticizer. That's just the way I'm. Criticize myself too. Maybe not so much publicly, but I do every now and again. But yeah, look, there's a lot of people to admire for different things. I can admire somebody for certain traits and completely criticize them for other traits. I can also do that. I think when just looking at business in general, not just crypto. There's many guys that I see that they do things and I say, hey, that was a great idea, or wow, that was really well executed. But yeah, so for sure, there's definitely people out there. And like I said, I mentioned Gavin Wood and Michael Novogratz. That's not the only guys on the list or the only people on the list, because there's some women floating around there too. But don't have so much time to talk about this. We have to keep on going. What's new on BizDev? Well, lots of BizDev that's tied between the CSD and CoinMetro. We're talking about BizDev between, let's say, Chainlink, perhaps. We're talking about BizDev perhaps through some market makers, additional market makers on the CoinMetro side. We're talking about biz development through other platforms that maybe be creating aggregation and things like that, liquidity aggregation. Talking about biz development between obviously other IEOs that may be coming on board. For now, at least in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I focus now on getting some of these investment rounds closed, or some of these investments closed. So once we get that done, we will definitely start pushing more on the BizDev angle. And I've started to kind of revamp a bit the Kevin brand. I do think I'll start to speak at some more events. I'll be speaking at one here in Estonia on the 14th and 15th, and one in Mexico actually in January. And I'm going to start to probably do that a bit more, mainly for business development, mainly to get the word out there and find out where there may be projects or businesses that we may want to link up with for whatever reason. What's next in terms of development releases? Well, obviously TRAM, margin posting, MAP. You guys know what that one is yet. And what else we got floating around in there? We got MAP is kind of maps a lot of things into one. We also have a couple passive income things that we're putting together. Aside from the fact that specifically for Montenegro, we now are thinking about ways to create some different types of derivatives or options that we may be able to add into that platform. Very user-friendly options and derivatives, not this nonsense that most people don't understand, which is a generic derivatives platform. Or options platform, or futures platform for that matter. So lots of things. Obviously, getting the XCM locking mechanism, investing and the locking mechanism, and the conversion of fees is next up on the list as well. Aside from TRAM and aside from margin posting, and like I said, MAP also. I don't think anybody knows what that one is yet, but you guys will soon. It's a cool product. Who's bankrolling the CSD development? Well, right now, development is being paid for by myself and the co-founder, initial development, though we are actively fundraising there as well. And most of the groups that I'm talking to are actually interested in investing on both sides. Fact is that when I talk to someone about the CSD, I always mention CoinMetro. When I talk to somebody about CoinMetro, I always mention the CSD. Main reason is they both need each other. And in order to show that the entire ecosystem works, you need an MTF and you need a CSD. So it makes sense to kind of talk about them jointly. Anything new regarding Chainlink? Nope, nothing new. We were supposed to have a call Thursday or Friday, but unfortunately Chainlink didn't get back to me with the complete schedule. So I know they were coming back from DevCon. Perhaps they got delayed. I don't know. They might be in South Korea. I'm not sure. But I think next week we'll get together with them and have a chat. I believe you said investing into TRAM is essentially increasing the manager's collateral. Are managers not subject to 2,500 collateral? This collateral will get canceled soon. Yeah, obviously for the first couple days, maybe week, maybe a bit more of TRAM, we probably will leave that collateral in place. But as soon as that collateral barrier needs to be broken, then yes, TRAM specifically will be able to circumvent that collateral limit. In terms of individual traders, we still need to collect some data to understand where we can go with that. And we're actively doing that. So. Can you say how many people have signed up? How many people are now signed up on the platform? And is there a base still growing? If so, what percentage are we talking? Yeah, well, I talked a bit about this just a bit ago. Somebody else had a question about it. In terms of how many on board, I think we're roughly around the area, I think around 10,000 people that are fully onboarded and signed up. And over 50,000 that have actually initiated an account opening, but maybe haven't gone through full KYC or haven't submitted documents, etc. Brian, sometimes you compare CM to a company like Amazon, Tesla, that were not profitable for a long time, and now they are in big and doing very well. When do you think CM will be profitable? Half year, more? It depends. Look, for us to be profitable, we're pretty lean. A burn rate of 100K with 22 employees, with so many different revenue streams that we've created and we are creating, is pretty lean, guys. So we definitely don't have the overhead that Tesla or even Amazon had in their really beginning days. We're not dealing with physical products. We don't have warehouses, et cetera. We don't have machinery and machinists and all that good stuff. So for us to, in terms of volume, we need, I think, roughly 3 million in volume a day to be sustainable. After that, we go into profitability. I don't think that's too hard of a goal to achieve. We do need marketing to be able to do that. And our new products will definitely help as well. So really, it depends. I think from the point that we have 1 to 2 million in the bank, we can probably get into self-sustainability within 9 to 12 months. And that's conservative. And that's 9 to 12 months because it'll probably take us 3 to 4 months, I think, to fine tune a marketing strategy, to find what copy works, where it works, and how we're going to market our products. And then we slowly start to ramp up and market those products based on the influx of new money that rolls in, the revenue that rolls in. And after that, obviously, the ability for us to go from self-sustainability into more profitability is going to depend on the success of those marketing campaigns, on the back of continued development on new products and continued expansion and updates of our existing product base. Are we getting market makers this month? We're working on it. Obviously, those guys come with a cost as well. So we have one in the wings ready to roll. The cost to us is roughly 5K a month. That's not a huge cost. It's 5% of our burn rate. But when you have a burn rate and you have a sum of money that you need, you have a runway, even 5K a month for 3-4 months or whatever, you're already up to 1/5 of your monthly burn rate, et cetera. So what you want to make sure is that you have the funding in place. So what we're simply waiting for ink on paper, and then we will go ahead and push with this initial market maker. And we're already talking to 1 or 2 others as well. And we're trying to find, with our current liquidity provider, perhaps how we can fine tune a bit better on how we actually pull liquidity and how it's displayed, so that it can help us not just showing top of book. Because I know a lot of people see top of book, they assume there's no liquidity beneath, and we're looking at how we can revamp that now as well. Did you hire a new marketing person yet? Well, we have Oliver on the team now. Oliver has been definitely helping out with marketing. We're still looking for different pieces, and we have a new copywriter as well, so that's cool. So yeah, we have started hiring. We're still looking for an additional few pieces, but we're being picky this time around, super picky. Not that we weren't picky the first time around, but now we're really being picky. So it'll take probably a bit more time, but we're still looking. When will we get XCM utility? Same day like Tram. XCM utility, I think, generally speaking, tech-wise, I think is pretty much ready to roll. We were waiting on a decision from finance and from legal. That's how we got into all this, not burning right away, but locking for 5 years, and then hopefully burning after that, if not locking for a much longer time period, or et cetera, et cetera. So I think right now we're simply waiting to get through the tram launch, and then we'll push that. I don't know if it'll be the same day, but it should be quite close. Any word on other incentives for holding XCM discounts? Lots of things are coming down the pipe, guys. The map project that I spoke about is specifically about how you can track all the different possible ways that you can use XCM and its utility, and then you can actually see what you're doing, or what you've done, and what everybody else is doing, to understand where XCM sits inside of our own ecosystem, if it's liquid, if it's not, how that affects supply, etc. So it's going to be cool. Please repeat what you said about QNT. Well, QNT, we had to disable it for a while for trading because we were using BitGo for QNT, and BitGo stopped supporting QNT shortly after we listed it. We now support QNT in our own native Ethereum wallets. So trading is back up, deposits are back up. Actually, trading never stopped, but deposits were stopped because BitGo stopped supporting it. We now support it again, so deposits and withdrawals are back up for QNT inside of our own wallet system. Would you consider running a chain link node through CoinMetro, let users pool their tokens with CM and earn some passive income? We may get into the staking game at some point. There is some legal ramifications around staking, though I think most of those we've kind of been able to circumvent so far. So it's something we're thinking about, especially once BitGo has now started doing staking. Unfortunately, not in any assets that we currently allow trading with. I think Algorand and one other that we haven't yet listed. Once they start to offer staking on assets that we have in custody, it'll make it easier for us to test out, our own company's willingness to go ahead with staking. Are the dark themes of CM now finally behind us? Are the dark times? I don't think we ever had dark times. But I think, look, we're always moving forward. I said this in the last time. I don't want this to sound like some type of Tony Robbins event, right? But the point is that in life, and over my 40 some odd years, I figured this one out. The only way you fail is by stopping, right? Yeah, you may come to a crawl sometimes. You may have to, be bloodied and battered on the floor and just literally pulling yourself 1 inch per hour, or whatever, to move forward. But as long as you keep moving, you don't fail, and you eventually succeed, and you reach your goals. So yeah, we had some times there where there were some breaks on the train, like the emergency brake got stuck, and we were still trying to throw the coal in the engine or whatever to keep the thing going. But we're still here, guys, and I think that's a testament to everybody here in this office, everybody that's not here in this office, the entire Telegram community, even guys like Reme, and it's a testament to show that as long as you keep moving forward, you actually can get shit done. So, tell about MAP. Yeah, I don't want to. It's a cool thing, guys. It's a cool thing. We'll be releasing more on that over the next probably couple weeks or so, and you guys will get a glimpse. You can pester Oliver about that one, see if he'll release something about it. Have you decided what your initial tokenized securities will be? Well, we definitely, we're talking the talk. We got to walk the walk. We will tokenize CM, CoinMetro equity. We will tokenize CSD equity as well. So those will be some of the first tokenized securities. We are looking at some other projects right now. We haven't made any decisions. That's going to probably be in the next 30 days or so. We will start to actively look for issuances and companies that may be looking to do issuances, and we'll start to vet those. We have gotten a few submissions actually already, but so far we haven't made any decisions. I feel Ali running across the room shouting, "Don't talk about MAP." Yeah. He's probably doing that upstairs right now, actually. If he's watching right now, he's probably like, "God damn." But what do you mean by XCM utility? What is XCM used for? XCM is used right now for, actually, if you have enough XCM in your account, you actually get automatic discounts on trading. Problem is we haven't really marketed that, but it's there. So there's one utility for you. You can always ask about what those levels are, and ask Oliver. He'll give you the answer on Telegram. But we are building an extensive list of utility inside of our own platform. Not only the conversion of fees to XCM, not only the TRAM with collateral, not only let's say getting access to IEOs, not getting all these things are going to be compiled, and many more utilities that we're building, and you'll start to see what that looks like once we release this map product. So there you go. You can hear there's a little bit more about map for you. Any feedback? Read debit cards. So I haven't had this discussion again since I think 2 weeks ago when I had, or maybe 3 weeks ago now, with the underlying provider. Though things are moving, I'm still waiting for from the printer so that we can get the guidelines, so we can make the actual designs. I will have a chat probably Wednesday next week with them, and not the printer, but the actual company that we're working with to get this done. And so next Friday I should have some updates. Is there a fixed date for TRAM release? I think I missed it. I think right now, when we were speaking to Dev after we had to make some changes according to finance or risk mitigation and things like that, I think the talk was 3 weeks. That was last week, so I think we're 2 weeks away from TRAM. Again, don't anybody take a goddamn red marker right now and put an X on their calendar for 2 Fridays from today, because I'm not saying it's exactly 2 weeks. I'm saying that the dev schedule a week ago was 3 weeks. It means it's 2 weeks. So roughly within the next 2 weeks. As we get closer, though, we'll definitely be able to pinpoint a date for you guys. What's new regarding the 33 currencies? Yeah, it's down. It's 25 currencies actually. Some smaller currencies were knocked off the list, though all the majors and some non-majors that are quite important in crypto, like Turkish lira, et cetera, are still there. Hong Kong dollar, for example. That is tied in with the debit cards. So the goal was from the provider that in 4 days they would be ready to roll with their British-based or UK-based IBANs. They would start rolling out pounds and euros, and then the other currencies would flow in over probably 15 to 45 days, as they basically, because the process works that you have an IBAN. The IBAN, to get pounds on a UK IBAN, obviously they're already there. To get euros is relatively simple. To hook in other currencies, it requires the underlying issuer of those IBANs, whether it's a tech provider or a bank, to actually integrate. Usually that's a very manual process. All the different SWIFT possible messages, MT103s, MT102s, et cetera, into the let's say the IBAN software that they use, or whatever type of infrastructure they're using, and that can take time. So again, I'll have an update, I think Wednesday next week, if not before. You can tag me on Telegram Wednesday, Thursday next week, and if I have an update, I'll shoot it over there. If not, next week we can definitely talk about it. Is the airdrop family getting some PRQ airdrop tokens? At least for PRQ, we tried to tie the bonus into people that actually bought the tokens, rather than just doing an airdrop, simply because we knew that there wasn't an intensive marketing budget on Parsek's side, and we wanted to try and push more buying rather than just pushing more weight on the token when it went tradable. However, I wouldn't dismiss the possibility of a possible airdrop once the token is tradable. Not immediately when it's tradable, but once there's actually a market for the token. USD stablecoin, yep, still working on that. Tech is done. We had a question. We had a few questions. We had a conference call with the guys from Cement DAO this week at some point to go over the mechanism by which they price the conversion between all the connected stablecoins and their own mixed token. Sorry, guys. I don't know if this is my battery dying. No, it's not. All right. I don't know. The screen just flickered like crazy, so I'm sorry about that. I don't know if I look like I just froze or what happened, but anyway. So yeah, that's happened. It's happening, guys. I think in release schedule wise, after TRAM, tech is pretty much done. Now it's just about integration in GUI, and the GUI work will happen after TRAM is released. Okay, guys, we're an hour and 5 minutes in. I think we're going to call it a day. Appreciate all the questions. Nice active session today. Appreciate BlocksLive.tv for let's say jumping in and airing our this week's in crypto episodes to their user base as well. So thanks a lot to Blocks Live TV. Moon, yeah, well, Moon is coming, guys. If CoinMetro's ecosystem is the rocket ship, I think we just finished about the fuselage is done. I think we got one rocket on. We're trying to finish the second rocket, and now we're just waiting for the fuel trucks to roll in. So we're getting there. We're getting there. And thank you, Brian, for the questions. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody else. Have a great weekend. Like I always say, don't look at prices. Buy a little bit of XCM. Christmas is coming, guys. XCM is like the perfect Christmas gift. I don't know, unless one of these rugs would probably be an even cooler Christmas gift. Or, an XCM t-shirt with like a Jesus meme on it or something would probably be awesome as well. But anyway, have a good weekend. See you guys next week. Spend some time with friends and family, etc., etc. And tag me on Telegram if you have any additional questions, and I'll see you guys there over the weekend. Appreciate it, guys. Onwards and upwards. Cheers.